Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving the signals from the magic of El Internet. Created by whom again? We the people. Created by whom again? You did. Folks, we're going to have a great program for you today. How's everybody doing? I trust you had a wonderful weekend. Well, you know what? We had a great weekend ourselves. Anyhow. Welcome aboard our Substack users or Substack listeners or chat, our Instagram, TikTok, everything else. Love to have you here. Anyway, before and without further ado, let's get on to the studio. Studio, how you guys doing this morning? The magic coming from Eugenio Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Bibba.
And Jack still deserves top billing here this morning. He makes my life easier.
Yes, he does.
Laurel and Hardy and Laurel.
Yeah, it is Monday morning at the radio here, the 5th of May. Cinco de Mayo it is. Very interesting holiday that they call it. I don't know why they would call it that, but, you know, the whole history of Cinco de Mayo. Ask them what happened on the 6th of May. Anyway. Yeah, it was a little different story on the 6th of May. Anyway, no rants this morning. I did see a headline saying Trump says that he's not going to run for another term. I just wonder, you know, that's not him. That is not him. Somebody must have got a hold of him and said, excuse me, sir, you need to start following the law. You need to start following the Constitution. And when his latest interview says, well, they ask, you know, are you obligated to follow the Constitution? He goes, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You're the president of the United States. The president of the United States follows the Constitution. Well, most of them have, except for this one. Jack, what you got there, man? You got a half a page of wisdom.
Well, I don't know how wise it is, but
well, if it's coming from you, it's wise.
I'm going to let it rip.
All right.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Why is Trump pushing the Supreme Court to let Elon Musk and his cronies get their hands on your personal data? Work history, income, benefits, health records. This is a big red flag. This is a big red flag for the citizens' privacy and opens the door to all kinds of abuses. Musk's DOGE failed to find the waste and fraud and abuse they claimed there was, but it did hurt Americans, especially MAGA, with employee layoffs. What will he do with all that information? He'll use it to hurt Americans and give himself a nice tax break.
He's going to sell it to Russia.
Yeah. Sell it to the insurance companies.
Basically, yeah, they're going to sell it to the insurance companies, making him lots and lots of money. But there is something called the Privacy Act of, is it 1977 or 74, that should prevent all that?
Well, you know, it's going to the Supreme Court now, whether, in fact, that's the first thing that we're going to. I'm glad that Jack started with that one, because I think that is one of those insidious things that we really need to look at, because again, your data is all you've got, and what these guys want to do is aggregate it, and then the next question is, do what with it? Well, I mean, I don't, whether they give it to Russia or not, you know, Musk is one of those guys that likes to control everything, and you know, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Micromanager, huh?
There you go. The thing about it is, a micromanager that doesn't know much creates the issues that he created. Remember, the reason he got the job is he has fooled many people into believing that he's this magical engineer. He's not an engineer. He buys companies that does technical things. That means we're talking about SpaceX. We're talking about
what is the name? The Sky program that he has to communicate over satellites, as well as the car Tesla. The guy knows nothing about those subjects. He knows one thing, and that is he got to break a lot of money during the time all those boys made those monies from having websites. And, again, in a capitalist system, you got capital. You can control everything as long as the system remains as it is today. But folks, the mystique of the mystique of Musk came crashing down when he, first of all, let me tell you, this guy has been making claims about a self-driving car for a long time. Well, turns out China has that. He doesn't. His car, wreck as it did on that tunnel and killed a few people. His car, they're still yet to attain that. They've fallen behind in the electronic vehicle market. But worse is that, again, he talks a lot about what he's going to do and never does it. He went from $2 trillion that he was going to save in government. We know that was impossible. To $1 trillion. We know that was impossible. To the $150 billion he claims today, which there's no receipts to prove that he's even saved $150 billion. And in the process, he's disrupted the IRS, so your IRS payments will likely be late. He's disrupted Social Security. We're going to talk about that as far as what they're doing. But what he has done in government and the disruption that he's created actually costs lives, and it will also cost your well-being. But let's get busy with why is Trump going to the Supreme Court to let Musk and his cronies see Social Security data? I picked this up off of one of my favorite independent media sites, which is Common Dreams. President Donald Trump administration requested an emergency filing on Friday that the U.S. Supreme Court allow members of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, formerly or otherwise known as DOGE, to access highly sensitive Social Security data, complaining that a lower court ruling is inflicting ongoing irreparable harm on urgent federal priorities. Think about that last sentence. The reason they create ongoing irreparable harm on urgent federal priorities is to tell the Supreme Court you don't have the time to figure out exactly why we want the data or if it's even legal for us to have the data, because this is an emergency. Donald Trump has done a lot of stuff under the tenet of it being an emergency. He went ahead, this deportation rule, the only way that he could deport people to El Salvador is to tell folks it is an emergency, so I can use that act from 17 something or to go ahead and throw people out of the country. It's all a gimmick. You keep saying this is an emergency and you get that. But I tell you what, before I continue into this realm, we have a caller, and I like to, take care of our callers first. So let's go to John. Come on in, John.
Hi. Yeah, this kind of thing affects us all. The immigration thing is just a ruse. People come from these countries because this is how it goes down. Either you join the gang or we're going to kill you and your family. That's where they're at. And unfortunately, American military dollars have created this, especially in Central America. But I've known people who lived in Chile in the Pinochet year. It's a disaster. But right here, when I wake up in the morning, it says, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I was a communist. And they came for the Jews. I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. This is where we're at. And the next step I've heard from another person is the Patriot Act, which they've already used, and they can say that your speech is promoting terrorism or violence, and they can do that to American citizens. So we're all in the same boat. We really are, and we have to develop a consensus. And your show is wonderful. I've only listened to it one time before, but you're helping do that. So I think it's wonderful.
I appreciate that, John.
Yep. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you so kindly for your call this morning, John. Keep listening. Please remember to tell other folks that, yes, here in Houston and around, we have shows that are really trying to, independently tell you the truth. Thank you, and you have a wonderful rest of your day, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, welcome aboard, Joe from Los Angeles, California on the chat, as well as Jacqueline Camfigi from Katy, Texas. Good morning. We also have I started up, or I couldn't get to Substack. It's not that I started it up late this time, but we have quite a few to welcome. Rosie, Bretoff Miller, Lady Historian, I Avila, Cheryl Edkins, who said, today I am in New York City. I think you're normally in Massachusetts, right? Sophia Moreau, president of the Houston Peace and Justice Center. John A. Davis, welcome aboard. We also have Thomas Morrison, Walter Risutu, Carlos Dean, for a Better World. John A. Davis, welcome, guys, to Politics Done Right. And for all those listening on air and through the internet, bienvenidos al programa. Welcome to the program. Anyway, look, folks. So before John called, I was saying one of the tricks that Donald Trump uses, everything turns out to be an emergency. When it comes to the economy, it's an emergency that we have to do these things with the economy. It's just a method of that authoritarians use to get things through before people can think things through. And that is the reason they're going to the Supreme Court with the phrase ongoing irreparable harm on urgent federal priorities if we don't get to see all of your data, all you folks receiving Social Security, all you folks that are paying into the IRS. If we don't receive your data, it's an irreparable damage, junk. The filing author advised U.S. Solicitor General D.J. Sauer asked the conservative-dominated Supreme Court to lift a preliminary injunction issued last month by Maryland-based U.S. Judge Ellen Hollander, who has accused Musk's team of engaging in a fishing expedition at the Social Security Administration in search of fraud epidemic based on little more than suspicion. Look, if there were fraud, Donald Trump and Elon Musk would be on every single network channel pointing it out. They would go arrest those folks right away, and they'll put it on display because that is how they roll. The fact of the matter is, as much as these guys spent, these little boys that went into all these different agencies, all of these other agencies had solicitor generals that checked whether or not what they were doing was justified, whether people were ripping the system off. Are people ripping Social Security off and Medicare and Medicaid? There's a certain amount of fraud that is in there, people having false certificates and all of that, but you've got to find them. And the thing about it is, while Musk and these guys are talking about it, they're not doing anything effective to actually get the tiny percentage of fraud out of government. And the place where we have the largest fraud, as we all know, is in the military defense department's budget. And you know how we know that? They have not passed an audit in decades. They're unauditable. When you do the audit, they never pass their audit. And of course not. When you sell a plane for $300 million that costs a fraction of that, when you have hammers that cost, when you have missiles that you sell for $10,000 that cost you $500 or less to make, the military industrial complex is a transfer of our tax dollars to the top. And you know how we know it? Because we know the price of bombs. But that's for another time. So, folks, that is where we're at today with regards to what Trump is trying to do with your data. So here's a message for our Social Security recipients. Right now, the way our Congress works, and I want you to hear this well, the way our Congress works, they cannot officially, and hear this, they cannot officially touch Social Security without cloture, which means they need 60 votes in the Senate, and they could not possibly get that. But there are other ways to create disruption. And what they're trying to do by having absolutely all the data on you, on all these folks, is to model that data, put it through AI, and have it come out with, there is a X percentage probability that this person is dead. There's an X percent probability that given the communication we've gotten from this person and et cetera, that it may be fraudulent. And then they will go up and cancel, as they have already started, payments to many of our Social Security recipients, calling them dead. Likewise, what they're doing is making sure that you have a hard time getting to Social Security, starting your Social Security, because again, a lot of these offices will be closed, and a lot of telephone folks have been laid off. And what that means is it takes longer for you to get what's yours. They also know that some people, some poor people who are just used to poverty, and as they're approaching this age and they start to reach Social Security, they try and try and try. And then what happens? They give up. They just figure they're not going to get anything. They give up. And that's also a saving in Social Security. People that are denied their coverage, people that give up on what's theirs, that's one form of denying service. The same thing that they're doing or will do to Medicaid, as we're going to point out in another article. But before I go any further, so folks, Social Security recipient, it is my job. It is our job as a 501c3 to inform. It is our job to educate. It is our job to let folks know what we can't tell you to do is what you can do, to specific things. But what we can tell you to do is that you still have the vote. You still have the power. You are able to go out there and demand of your politician that which concerns you, that which concerns your well-being, that which concerns your welfare. And in America, we still have one person, one vote. Yes, we have Citizens United that has called money speech, which has given an inordinate amount of speech to corporations. But still, you still have that one vote. And you still have that voice. And if at a point of peril, one does not use their voice and their vote, then in effect, they're implicitly voting for their own demise. They're implicitly voting for a rogue group to take something that they've earned, to take something that's not a giveaway, but it's something they've worked for their entire lives. I have a caller. Harry, come on in before I continue with the program.
Good morning, Egberto. Good morning, Howard. Good morning, Jack. Well, Egberto is right, folks. With any special elections going forward and the midterms, you have to exercise your vote because they will try to hurt your Social Security and your Medicaid. I was listening to a town hall meeting, Egberto. I don't know if you saw that, but Chris Cuomo town hall meeting. You had Bill O'Reilly on there. You had James Caldwell, Stephen A. Smith. You even had President Trump talk for about 30 minutes. And he talked about how he was not going to cut Social Security. But when you have a bill passed in the House for $880 trillion, if they were to pass something like that in the Senate, that money has to come from somewhere. So we know that just because he says he's not going to do that, you can't take Trump seriously. But the main thing I called about was some comments that Bard made about Letitia James and all this fraud that they're saying that she committed fraud in Virginia from a mortgage fraud. And a lot of that's just the Trump administration because they're mad because Letitia James did her job to prove that Trump ripped off the state of New York. And so they're trying to dig up dirt on her just for doing her job. And people like Bard, like you said on Friday, where their prejudices get in the way. And so they want to wrap that stuff up and they want to attack Letitia James. And happy birthday to your daughter, Ashley. And today is Cinco de Mayo. Today is my brother's birthday.
Happy birthday to your brother. Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful rest of your day, Harry. Let's go to Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning, Egberto. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Talk to me.
Morning. Yeah, I need your expertise on this. And if you don't have time today, just sometime this week. I noticed that they have 18-wheelers now that are driverless going between Dallas and Houston. And we know if something goes wrong, there's going to be fatalities. But in your expertise as a software person, what are the different things that could go wrong there? That's all I have is just a question.
Let me just tell you, Bruce, I didn't realize that I thought they were still in the testing phase. I didn't know that we actually had any companies doing it professional. I mean, as a part of business. But let me just say this. As far as driverless cars, driverless trucks are concerned, in the long run, it will get done and it will likely be very efficient. I don't want folks to be scared of driverless trucks and driverless cars, etc. Because the reality is a human being behind a truck, after the software reaches the appropriate stage of development, likely the software will be more efficient than the human being to drive. I spoke about this several weeks ago. The most difficult part of writing software for driverless cars or for automated systems are things called exceptions. Exceptions are the things that normally don't occur. Like if a truck is going and there's a rabbit that's about to go across the freeway, that truck has to make a decision. That truck has to say, what will cause the less damage to what? Not property, but to humanity, right? So it'll have to make the decision, do I run over the rabbit? Do I brake? Do I swerve? All these different things the truck has to decide as a human would as well, right? And that formula, a human being, whenever something strange occurs, that software, again, the software only knows things that likely to occur. The human being may have seen a rabbit, may never have seen some other kind of object, but they know that object reacts like a rabbit or that object reacts like a something else. You have to be able to put that intelligence into software that says, okay, this is a rabbit. I know how a rabbit behaves. I've never seen this other thing. What does this other thing likely behave at? And what do I do as a response? And that takes time to develop an algorithm that can do all of that. And that is still really in development. But driverless cars in the long run, after all these bugs and exceptions are realized, would likely be much better drivers than human beings. Because again, human beings have a lot of other factors that goes into play. Drunk driving, driving under the influence, driving while disabled. There are a whole lot of different things. Now, let me tell you, with respect to automatic driving, what's important. And I'm going on to this subject as a long answer because I think it's where we're at, and it's something that we need to understand. The issue with automation, driverless cars and trucks, robotic enterprises, and even with intelligence on AI, writing articles, all this kind of stuff, right? The important thing is this. A lot of human beings are going to be displaced by these technologies, meaning a lot less human drivers, a lot less human writers, a lot less humans in factories. So when you hear Donald Trump talks about bringing back manufacturing to the United States, it's hogwash. The kind of manufacturing that if somebody builds a new factory today, it's not going to look like the old factory in Vietnam. It's going to look like a new factory that is mostly automated, and not only mostly automated, but employing very few people in that factory, because just about everything can be automated right now. Okay, just about everything. That said, what we have to start thinking about are changing the laws of our economic system. Why? When these technologies come about, only a few people benefit. In other words, if I am a capitalist, I'm an investor, I invest in having all the universities and technologies get together to create that driverless truck. That knowledge came from all of us. And then when that product is developed, I no longer need drivers. There's a lot of people unemployed. The same thing occurs with in a factory. When all those we pay universities and we use your tax dollars to develop all these AI things, and when they're developed, guess what? All these jobs are lost. And what that means is that productivity skyrockets. Productivity means unit of labor per cost, right? Now, productivity increases dramatically. And therefore, the people who are making the widgets, the cars, the pencils, the pens, the cups, they make trillions of dollars. We're not talking in the billions now. We're talking trillions of dollars. And what happens then is that spoil goes to the top. How do we know that? It's already happening. Detroit, when they made cars, it used to be human beings welding. Human beings are not doing those spot welds anymore. Computers and robots are doing that right now. So those new factories look completely different in 2025 than they did in 2000 or that they did in 1990. They look very different. They're now mechanized and machines doing the work. It is now the law. What the law needs to realize is where we are at, and we have to change the economic model. No longer should those spoils of AI go to the investors and the capitalists who put money to build these things and then get all the spoils from it. That knowledge from AI, that knowledge from robotics, all of those things came from human beings, all of us, our composite knowledge. Remember that when I told you about discerning how you react to a rabbit in a truck, how you create minimal damage by braking, swerving, or moving ahead? That's the kind of things the programs have to do. Where did knowing that kind of stuff come from? How does humans react? All of that came from just our being. So what we have to work towards is as productivity increases because of AI and robotics and automation, that productivity should go towards us. And how does it go towards us? A reduction in work week without a reduction in income. That's one way. Free healthcare that is paid by all of us. It's not free. We created the environment that created the wealth. Things like a basic income, right? We are living off of the spoils of our ancestors, off the spoils of our engineers who've developed things. It didn't happen accidentally. I'm a programmer. I used to do SCADA and real-time programming, and that automation, that sort of stuff, I did a whole lot of that kind of software. And I can sit back and I can say, Wow, I know how to do all these great things. I am great. I can do all of that, until you decide to get honest with yourself. All of that came about because the state of Texas and the United States government invested a whole lot into great universities. We have the top universities in the world. University of Texas, Texas A&M University, Harvard University, which is older than the country. All these universities, many of them, all of them, having received your money. All you taxpayers that are listening to me right now, all those universities received your money, your money. And with that money, they educated people like myself. They educated every engineer that is working for Elon Musk right now. They educated all these folks. Public dollars. All the research that went into SpaceX was developed by whom again? You. Some of these companies would say, well, we invested a lot of investor dollars. True. But those investors had dollars to invest because the primer to these technologies occurred at universities and on government funded grants. Remember, capitalists do not take risks. Capitalists are risk averse. They invest in things that they think are going to work. And how do you know things are going to work? You get the tests done at universities where all the investment occurred. Don't let anyone let you believe that the private sector is the one that get things done for you. No, the private sector has always been a socialist enterprise. We create things in universities, colleges, and institutes that are funded by we the people. We take the risks. Most of the stuff we take the risks on don't ever materialize into anything. But when it seems like it should or will materialize into something, a blood factor, a hormone or whatever, then the private sector comes in. They buy it off from the university. They do some more research to finalize and package it. And then they say, we did it. Nope. 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 You know who did it? Brothers and sisters, you did. You know who educated me? You did. You know who educated Brother Howard and back Ben Beba? You did. We did. We did. And our payment as we are educated and get good paying jobs at any one time is we give it right back in taxes for the next generation. There isn't me. It's us. It's we, the people. And folks like Elon Musk and our economic system rewards the few, the loudmouths, the few, the ones who know how to steal best, the ones who know how to get more off of your back. And anybody who wants to challenge what I've just spoken about, how things really work, any any capitalist who think it is your genius that got anything done as opposed to our collective knowledge, give me a call. All right. Before I get to the phones, I saw some items here in the chat. I want to say hello to, let's see, Gayla Kunis from Evans, Georgia. We have Deborah Keefe. Lady Historian says, wasn't it nice back in the day when we voted every 4 years and just went with our lives? No one bothered to vote in the midterms then because we had no urgency. Washington did its thing, and it didn't matter on how it was Republican or Democrat. Miss that unity. I hear you, young lady. I hear you. For a Better World says, thank you for pointing out the triggering language the administration is using to get people to slide into flight or freeze and get the amygdala in the brain working. You got that right. For a Better Word says, bypassing our frontal reasoning thinking brain. Welcome aboard, Cindy, Jane, Sheila, Long, Alice. 2 minutes to call out right now. So I'm just highlighting those who leave a message. LBW says, and the more we use AI, the more intelligent it gets because of our input. So it's because of us that it's getting better and smarter. You nailed it, LBW. For a Better World says, what about the centralized manufacturing can be a pathway to a non-democratic, autocratic, centralized foreign control? That is true, and that's why we need to have rules. Marge K, great having you on our single yesterday. Marge KJ says, how do I see the chats? It sort of appears underneath the video, Marge. For a better world, say, with AI dominating. Again, we have control of AI and we will have control of AI. In the chat, welcome Eric Hayes. Welcome. Let's see. We also have Glenn. Welcome, Glenn Ryan. Thank you for being here as well. If I missed you, shout out. And I give you a shout. All right, let's go to Donald, line number 1.
Hey, good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
You're almost talking out of both sides of your mouth. When you talk about autonomous vehicles and lights out manufacturing, yes, all that is true. But if you remember how politics works, and you need to define this one day on your program, what politics is. Remember, there was just a truck driver shortage not just too long ago, and they were whining and squealing and hollering about it. That was in order to be able to introduce these autonomous vehicles. Everything has a pathway. When you watch what someone is crying and bringing attention to, they've already got it in the works. They've already got the investments going. Everything is already there.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe in data, but you know data can be skewed. It's only what your inputs are and what you drop off of.
Yes.
So everything that we see is not really the truth. So
true.
What do we do?
Let me go ahead and let me point out something, because I don't think you use the right words in my humble opinion. I am not speaking out of two sides of my mouth. And first of all, you are correct that a lot of times let me tell you where I agree with you 100%. A lot of times you highlight shortages, or you highlight problems that aren't necessarily real problems, so that you can take other actions and allow those actions to seem acceptable. That is what you're driving at. You're saying create a truck driver shortage, and that gives you license to go ahead and create these autonomous vehicles. And you're correct. And that's where I came back and I said, but let's look at the reality. Are you going to stop autonomous vehicles? I don't want AI stopped. I don't want robotization stopped. I think all these things can make Donald's life better. Because instead of Donald having to work 40 hours, if we do it correctly, instead of Donald having to work 40 hours a week, guess what, Donald? We have robots. We have autonomous vehicles. We have all these things now. It should give humanity a lot more leisure. If we look at it through the lens of saying efficiency should be the reward, who should be rewarded from efficiency is all of humanity and not the few. If you go from that tenet, then all these vehicles, all these technologies would benefit all of us. But we have to get away from the belief that capitalism, the type of economic system that we have, where the person with capital gets the spoils and not the person with the intellect, not the Donalds, not the Harrys, not the Patricks, not the Helens, etc., etc. And that is our fight, Donald. That is what I am preaching. Those are the things that I try to get across. Speak to me, brother.
I know you forgot about the Karens, but in all honesty, where do we go with this? See, I'm a niche market guy. I'm a master machinist by trade, and then I move up, and I'm sitting in a truck right now driving down the road. That's the key. I go to where the need is. Heavy haul, size, and we seem to make a pretty good hit at it. But what do you do with all the other people? There's the problem.
No, here's it. How many you work 40 hours a week or 80 hours? I don't know. You said you're a machinist, right?
70, 75. No, I'm a truck driver now. I get my 70 hours legally by law, and I do as much as I can because I'm a redneck with a paycheck. And
I love redneck. I love my MAGA rednecks with paychecks. But let me tell you this, Donald. Let me tell you this. Here's where we go. Okay, you're working 70 hours a week driving a truck. Guess what, Donald? We may only need you to drive those trucks in the cities, and that's probably 10 hours worth of work a week. All right, and that's all you need to work. But I want you to work those 10 hours at the same pay that you're doing for 70 hours right now. Okay. And then you can go play with your daughter and granddaughters and all that kind of stuff.
No, then I'll be like everybody else. I don't want to live on 50 to 60,000 a year. I like my 6-figure plus. I've liked it my whole life.
Wait, Donald, wait a minute. You're not listening. Donald, you're not listening to me, brother. Come on. I said, I don't want you to lose your pay. I am saying the autonomous vehicles will allow you to reduce your hours at the same, I didn't say different pay, at the same pay. Now, how all of this is going to happen, it's above my pay grade. But
I know. But let me get back to this. When I redline your drawings, when I'm in R&D, I'm manufacturing your stuff and making everything work, it's because of a deadline. And that's how I've always made money. But I do worry about the other people because they don't have the mental capabilities to actually do that. So what do we do with them? That's all I want to know is.
Let me tell you, first of all,
you come up with it. You help
No. I'm going to accuse you of being an elitist now. Imagine I'm going to call a MAGA guy an elitist. Imagine that. But you're a damn elitist, brother. You just said people don't have the mental capability that you. No, what we have here is an educational system that needs a lot of revamping. I mean, you are a smart dude. There are a lot of smart folks that are underutilized. But hey, Donald, I got to go to get some other folks, but you made your point today.
Yes,
you
sir.
have a good one.
Have a good one.
Thank you, brother.
All right,
Peace.
bye-bye.
All right, let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
Here's a bumper sticker for the back of Donald's truck. I'm a redneck with a paycheck, and I did not vote for Agent Orange.
Actually, I think he did vote for Agent Orange, but I think he regrets it now.
Oh, no.
But yeah, talk to me, Johnny. No, but Donald is a good look. Let me tell you, you know how I feel about the misinformation out there. The good thing about it is Donald is a smart dude, man. So you can hear him talking his stuff really good. But continue, Johnny.
Oh, yeah, you could tell that when you're listening to him, the way he expresses himself and he organizes his thoughts. Mm-hmm. He's the kind of so-called redneck. We need more guys like him who have the capability of understanding reality.
Oh yeah,
like some of our fellow time travelers.
Let me embarrass Donald a little bit. He sent me a poem, right? Because he had said a piece of it on air, and it had all these good inflection points, and and I'm like, damn, this guy is pretty cool. Send me the poem, and he sent me the poem. I have a section of my website that I put things up from users. I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet, but the guy's a damn poet, man. Anyway, continue, by Johnny.
So. I'm thinking this is a time of year when certain reptiles, specifically frogs, like to, circulate and mate, socialize. Because last week or the week before, while walking the dog in the neighborhood, walking down the road, I counted 8 dead frogs squashed on the side of the road. So that's a deadly combination when certain animals are coming out to socialize and other animals in big old trucks drive down the road blind who are preoccupied with their thoughts, their bills, their kids, and they don't see these little creatures on the road. Now, granted, the majority of these frogs was not in the middle of the road. A few of them were, but most of them is on the margin, between where the grass starts and the road ends, like that. Right. To the eyes, a terrific hit on the local frog population. So I'm thinking, how about, in to dovetail what you said earlier about technology, AI, instead of us allowing Republicans to enable my household appliances to talk to each other about my eating habits and then sharing that information with the smartphone and the smartphone then tattatailing on this house with the Republicans in business and the corporate industrial oligarchy, how about instead we use that technology to enable these autonomous vehicles and maybe my vehicle to see these frogs or see the bunny rabbit or the squirrel ahead and communicate that information in real time to the vehicle coming up behind me so that when my braking system overrides me and brakes or slows down, it tells the vehicles behind, hey, I'm doing this for this reason, then that vehicle responds correspondingly.
Johnny, first of all, you're a genius because that is exactly the idea behind these autonomous vehicles. If we had a freeway filled with autonomous vehicles, all of that is possible because, again, they're communicating in a network fashion, right? And that there is, believe it or not, there's that type of programming out there where you're communicating with your vicinity. And it goes a little bit deeper when it comes to having smart highways as well. When all of that is integrated together, you can do all of that. So what you just said is already out there in the thought process of having these things work together. The issue right now is having cars with that have human drivers that also are what's known as automatedly hybrid, which means it's like an airplane, right? And the autopilot. You can override the autopilot, and there are times that we want the autopilot to override you. Think TCAS. TCAS, to avoid collisions, is something that is overriding the pilot who is about to kill all this thing. So, I mean, when I talk about the exceptions, that's what I'm talking about, including what you just said. Got to move on because I'm running out of time, Johnny.
Overriding pilots in certain situations, like what happened with all those plane crashes. Remember?
Exactly. Yeah, that was a 737. I forgot the brand, but you're right. It's what Boeing did when the Ultra. It raised the engine, and to prevent the pilots from having to retrain, they changed the software to behave differently because of the engines. Long story, but that was the issue behind it. Thank you, brother. Have a good one, Jenna. Let's go to Tall Boss. Tall Boss, you're active.
Yeah, man. Bless up, brother. What boss?
Hey, brethren, whopping.
No? Yes, man. Yes, sir. I want to say this specifically to the redneck with a paycheck. You remind me of John McCain.
Yeah, exactly right.
He come with all the rhetoric. When he's ready to die, he asks Obama to officiate, to give his eulogy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, again, let me tell you something, Tall Boss. Let me just say this real quick, Tall Boss. Good people, when I talk about engaging everybody, left, right, middle, the thing about it is all of us generally want the same thing, right? But the rhetoric and there are those small amount of people that putting us at each other's throats. I hope that with some of what we do here, brother, we can see that you just pointed it out, John McCain. I disagree with John McCain a lot, but it was an honorable man. Continue, brother.
Yeah, John McCain was a very honorable man because he fought for the country. But other than that, he was a very,
he was conservative. Now that's who he is.
Good guy. He wasn't a good guy.
Good. Yeah,
towards black people. He wasn't.
Yeah.
His policy did anything for black people. John McCain was just like the rest, a MAGA guy that served his country as a patriot. Okay.
But let me just say this about John McCain. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
At the end of the day, he asked a black man to do his eulogy. Joke.
But again, like I said, if you know the history of John McCain, put it this way: his son is married to a black woman, officer in the Navy. I'm saying this guy lives the American experience as he's a conservative. Don't get me wrong, and I disagree with his conservative policies. But John McCain is an honorable person who believes in his values. And when it came time to hurt the American people by getting rid of their health care, he was the one who saved health care. He saved the lives of millions with that one vote. John McCain out there is a honorable and good guy. Anything else, John Boss? I got to run to Augie.
Yeah, John McCain ridiculed Obama a lot. All right. So,
it was a game. Yeah, it was a game. It was the game.
It's not a game, man. This is not a game.
Sir, you're right.
John McCain is a game of people's life. It's not a game.
Forgive my words.
I give you no pass on that. Man.
No, forgive my words. I shouldn't have said it's a game. You're correct on that. But I'm saying
he played a game. That's damn right. He played a game.
they play this political
How can it be
thing.
honorable when you play that game with people's life? How can it be all honorable? No, you're a patriot. You're not honorable.
What I'm trying to say is when things counted, when it counted with a vote that actually had a material effect on people's lives, he did the right thing. And I think you have to agree with me on that.
I agree. He did some stuff. He did some good stuff.
And I think we need to, brother, I think that's where we need to be. But look, we talk another day. Keep listening, keep calling, brother. We'll talk. All right, let's go to Augie. Come on in, Augie. Thank you. Peace and love, brother. Come on in, Augie.
Yeah, about the semi driver who likes working 70 hours. But because of the tariffs, they aren't getting 70 hours. They're getting less because less products are coming into the ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and even here in Houston. Recently, I drove from Houston to San Antonio, and for the last couple of years, there was always a lot of semi trucks.
Yeah.
But I realized, hey, there aren't that many semi trucks anymore, which made the trip a little bit better. But I didn't think much about it until they started talking about the tariffs. And then I realized, oh, that's why. That's because they don't have that much work anymore because there aren't that many trailers coming in on the ships for the semis to haul away. So, yeah, and working 70 hours, that's bad on your body. I knew several long-haul drivers, and they had to quit because their bodies couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
And doesn't think about that. And as far as like you said earlier about the government being paying extra for things they buy, I had a father-in-law who was a switchman for the phone company, and then he became a manager, and he was buying that telephone equipment, the switch equipment, and then he retired, worked for the government, do the same kind of work, buying switching equipment, and he knew what the price was, and he knew how much the government was paying for it. They were paying a whole lot more than private industry was. Mm-hmm. So he haggled with his company that was selling the government equipment, and he got him to get the price down. But then this government supervisor found out about it somehow and told him, nope, pay the original price that they're screwing the government with. So we had to go back and tell him, okay, you can screw the government and pay him, have him pay the higher price.
Again,
so he quit working.
Yep, that's how the kickbacks works, Augie, and that is what if Doge really wanted to find problems, they could find problems in all those kinds of areas, Augie. But I mean, you nailed it. You know, I forgot. You know, you remind me of something, Augie. I forgot to ask Donald if he's still doing is he still able to get his 70 hours or not? Because you brought up a point with seeing less trucks on I-10 and these other freeways. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Anything else? I need to jump to Brian, Augie. Anything else you need to say real quick?
And I had another friend who was an auditor for the Army in San Antonio. In San Antonio, Fort Sam has the Army headquarters. And every couple of years, their budget is looked at in Congress. So this friend of mine was an auditor, and he had to go to Congress and Washington, D.C. and talk about the Army budget here in San Antonio. And like you said, there's a lot of waste fraud going on. When a general comes into headquarters, what he does is he changes the furniture, the way that the decor and the way the walls are painted and all that. And then he leaves after a couple of years. Another general comes in, and he doesn't like the decor and the furniture. So he has it all thrown away and put new furniture in. And my friend would talk about that waste. So the general started not to like this guy because he was, pointing out all the waste that was going on in that Army headquarters.
Got to go. Okay, got to go because Brian needs to get a few minutes to say his piece. Thank you so kindly, my brother. We'll talk tomorrow. Let's go, Brian. Talk to me, my dear brother.
Yes. Good morning. How is everyone?
We're doing fine, sir. How are you doing?
Well, I'm a little upset with Johnny because he hasn't called me, like that kindergarten name that he uses for everyone else. It's like Lester. He called him Lesterine, and he called Bart Breitbart. And
you want it. You want your name. You want your name.
I want a kindergarten recess class name.
I guarantee you, Johnny will have a name for you. I know he'll have a name for you. Talk to me, Brian. What you calling for?
Yeah, I grew up in a household where my father called Richard Nixon a communist for even speaking to Chairman Mao. He was called a communist. And my father is a Korean War veteran. He was on the front line. He always called in mortars and bombings. He killed hundreds, if not thousands, of North Koreans and Chinese. And I ended up marrying one. So, hey, Johnny, how many people immigrate to a communist country? How many millions have immigrated to this country? You want to talk about capitalism versus communism or socialism? Tell me about that. What is the difference? Come on, Egberto. You immigrated to this country for what reason? Freedom?
I love what America stands for. I love what America, I should say what America stood for. I believed in what America preaches or preached around the world. And if you notice, you had another Caribbean caller that called in. That is why we're here. We're not here to disparage the country. We're here to make the country better. Listen, Brian, if you think what I'm doing is disparaging the country, then you absolutely don't understand what we're doing here. And one of these days, what I'm going to ask you to do is ask me the question, what do I really believe in? You see, you make your mind up on certain things and you get rigid about it. The things that I want are the same darn things that you want. I don't want any ill will done to you at all. None whatsoever. I want your life better. And you give me hell for wanting that. But Brian, I'm at 56, which means I have to throw it back to the studio. Thank you for your tone today, though. I appreciate you. So give me a call tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. All right? All right.
Well,
let's go to the studio.
Nothing here. Take it home, Egberto.
All right. Anyway, folks, look, thank you all. I didn't get to cover 4 of the 5 subjects I wanted to cover, but I enjoy speaking to you. They are at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright, kpft@politicsdoneright. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery